Good morning, all. Welcome back to our Friday episode drops where we are truly standing on business as we break down some of the biggest business moves we've seen around both sports and culture. This past week, cities were confirmed for the 2006 World Cup taking place in North America. And while we're still a couple years out, we are going to start seeing an economic effect before we know it. E.T., myself, will be breaking it down today. I'm actually looking forward to it. And running into our guest on the pod this week is an athlete turned business entrepreneur who is no stranger to the World Cup herself, co-founder of the National Women's Soccer League's newest expansion team, the best team in the league, BayFC, while they're in Santa Barbara right now for the first training camp. Danielle Slaton sits down with both of us at a Soho House, Cities Without Houses event to speak to how our years playing both in America and overseas unlocked a passion to drive change in the game of soccer or football. Which one do you call it, E.T.? You call it soccer or football?
I call it soccer.
Oh, okay. I can dig it. E.T., in 2026, North America is set to host the prestigious World Cup. Matches across 3 countries, 16 cities in total. In 2022, 1.6 billion, that's what it be. That's how many people watched the World Cup final in Qatar, and over 1 million tourists traveled there to participate. That sounds like a lot of money involved, especially with sports and sports betting and the crazy prop bets we got last week, which I was involved in one of them. But before we go into that, let's break it all down. In terms of economic and touristic milestones for North America, the World Cup is a historic sporting event set to unfold across Mexico, United States, and Canada, and promising to bring substantial economic impact. With the expanded format featuring 104 matches and 48 teams, cities across North America are preparing for an influx of tourism and investment. According to the Boston Consulting Group and United Bid Committee, the event is expected to generate over $5 billion in short-term economic activity, including 40,000 jobs and more than $1 billion in worker earnings. I repeat, that's $5 billion in short-term economic activity for 40,000 jobs and $1 billion in worker earnings. Financial considerations for host cities. The cost of hosting the World Cup is substantial. Cities are revising their financial plans to meet the expenses associated with infrastructure enhancements and event organization. Unlike previous World Cups where national governments shouldered most costs, U.S. cities are independently funding their participation, with some seeking state support to cover the expenses. In the U.S., cities that will be participating in hosting games are Atlanta, Boston, Dallas, Houston, Kansas City, Los Angeles, Miami, New York/New Jersey, all rolled in one, Philadelphia, San Francisco, aka the Bay Area, and Seattle, one of my favorite cities. In Mexico, the cities are Guadalajara, Mexico City, and Monterrey. And in Canada, 2 of my favorite spots as well, Toronto and Vancouver. 16 cities across the U.S., Canada, and Mexico will host a total of 48 teams and 80 matches under the new expanded format, making this the largest FIFA World Cup in history. FIFA requires 14 stadiums with a capacity of 40 to 80,000 seats, along with 150 training grounds. When the World Cup was in South Africa, they spent approximately $4 billion on World Cup preparations. Brazil spent the estimate $15 billion in World Cup preparations. Jesus. Russia spent over $14 billion on infrastructure costs beyond stadiums. Constructions projects that created 220,000 domestic jobs. This comes out to about $1 billion per tournament host city. Oil-rich Qatar, they love putting oil-rich on them, has earmarked $220 billion to host the World Cup. That's not a typo. $220 billion. Wow. They did not have. It's already been in Qatar, right?
Yeah. It was just in Qatar a couple years ago, so they had to rebuild everything basically brand new because Qatar had no no stadiums, none of that stuff really to, meet the requirements, but they were able to build it up, which was, pretty impressive if you think about it.
This is true. And then I really want to break down your thoughts. The New York, New Jersey FIFA committee has to raise funds. From the committee, it's big prestige. I don't know that it's a huge moneymaker for the stadium because it costs a lot to live up to the requirements FIFA puts in front of you in order to be that host. That's from Meadowlands Chamber of Commerce President James Kirkos. Kirkos also stated there's a lot of money that needs to be spent in order to produce the events for FIFA. That's one of the jobs of the host committee now. It'll gear up as they start to raise the money. Just like the Super Bowl, the host committee has to raise $40 million or more. So now that's their task now to do that. Mayor Adams estimates that the World Cup will bring $2 billion in revenue to the city. World Cup final will generate over 14,000 jobs. As a result, FIFA chose MetLife Stadium over the likes of E18 Stadium in Arlington, Texas, where the Cowboys play. MetLife Stadium holds 80,000 people. The stadium will also host 5 group stage games beginning June 13th, 2026 until the final ends. Now, there were some issues historically, as we break all that down, ET, with MetLife Stadium. Speaking of the Super Bowl that occurred the last time the Super Bowl was there.
Yeah, it's like 2014.
2014. And they had a lot of issues with people leaving the stadium.
Yeah, it took forever, I guess. Yeah.
So now they doubled back and they've made statements that they've hosted 3 Taylor Swift concerts and they haven't had any issues as they prepare to have special lanes for people to take buses and transit from wherever they are to get to the stadium without any massive backup in traffic. So to fix traffic issues from the 2014 Super Bowl, state legislation in New York and New Jersey have allocated $35 million just to design and plan a dedicated transit system loosely based on Disney World's bus system that they believe will alleviate the problems. On game days, buses will travel along a back road that is currently closed and in dedicated lanes on the New Jersey Turnpike. If successful, the system could become a lasting legacy of the World Cup. People are skeptical of the traffic issues that occurred in 2014 when New York City hosted the MetLife Stadium. New Jersey Transit is a dramatically different organization than it was in 2014, Mr. Murphy said, referring to the chaos after that Super Bowl. We've proven that with 3 Taylor Swift concerts in a row that went off flawlessly, we saw Bruce 3 nights flawless. We are just better than we used to be. New Jersey is an interesting state. I will say that. Very, very interesting place. But World Cup, and are you excited about it, to be honest? We got 2.5 years. What are you looking forward to? Who do you see as taking advantage of it the most in terms of player? Do we see any power couples starting to gear up to get ready for it? You know, a lot of people are talking about, how much money will be made, but who will take advantage of the moment what will, because we know what Usher and his financial possibilities coming from the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? Super Bowl or football in general, Taylor Swift, the whole thing. Beyonce came out with 2 records last night. It was beautiful to see the Queen take her throne back. Usher, obviously, his streams will go up as he dropped another album. We've spoken about that before in the past on our pods in terms of how much money is being made from someone who does a halftime show. But you're more versed or more well-versed on soccer/football players. So who do you see taking over America?
Man, I feel like Mbappe. I feel like the last World Cup, he was pretty. Kylian Mbappe, the Frenchman. Yeah, I felt like the last World Cup, he was, going back and forth with Messi on the grand stage. And I feel like he was only like 23, 24 at the time.
He's that young?
Yeah, he's young, bro. He's not. I get his age, but I don't think he's I feel like he's like 24 or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that guy would be lit. Shoot, how old would Messi be by then? I'm looking forward to Mbappe.
Mbappe is 25, so he'll be 27 right in his prime. He'll be in his prime.
And he'll be in his prime on the world stage, and I just felt like that'd be lit. I feel like that'd be like the next move. Ronaldo's a little bit older, so it's messy, but I ain't gonna sit here and act like I'm Joe Soccer, but I would definitely want to sit here and see Mbappe. I think that'd be a dope story. And obviously, as you can see, like the French in athletics as well, they're just making a big splash. When you're talking about Mbappe, then you discuss, Wemby and some of the other people really making moves. It's kind of lit to see. Where would you go watch a game? Would you go to New York? Would you go to? I think they're playing like 30 minutes outside of San Fran.
They might be. They're probably playing. I wonder where they're playing at. Well, 40 to 80,000. So it's only so many stadiums. So it would have to be where the 49ers play. So they play in San Jose. It would have to be at their stadium.
It's over there. Yeah, that's where it's at, San Jose.
I would look up the countries that are playing.
Yeah.
And check out where I would want to be. The Bay Area has an amazing soccer footprint. Most female professional soccer players, the highest percentage is in the Bay Area.
Is it?
And that was part of the reason why I invested in the team. Like when I read through the investment deck, that's something I wouldn't have known before. It's like hotbeds for certain sports, like LA, Chicago for basketball, Texas, Florida for football. Like we're in a hotbed in the Bay for professional women's soccer players. So it's gonna be dope. It's gonna be dope. Seattle would be dope, to be honest, because they got a wave going on up there.
Yeah, I like Seattle. I think I want to go to Canada. Check out some games. I love Canada, bro. And I just feel like Canadians are cooler to hang out with. So I feel like that'd be fun to just watch some games. Straight up, bro. I feel like
I think you're right, actually.
Yeah, Canada in the summertime is actually lit.
Vancouver in the summer.
Vancouver anytime. I want to go to Whistler, actually.
Where is
Whistler? It's beautiful. Whistler is like 45 minutes. Like past, it's near Vancouver, but it's just like a vacation spot, basically.
Aha. That would be super dope.
Yeah, so it's like the Aspen of like Canada.
Point forward.
For this Friday's business episode, we had the opportunity to sit down with Bay FC co-owner Danielle Slaton. So I am actually a small minority governor / owner of the Bay FC National Women's Soccer League team. And as they are in training camp this year and looking forward to their inaugural season, I thought it would be great for us to sit down and have a conversation with Danielle in terms of how did the thought come in process to bring a team to the Bay, struggles, excitement that came from that. Who did she look to raise money? How did you set valuation price? What is the growth prospects? How did you get others to be involved? Who are some of the strategic investors? What are we most excited about? We just building a great team, got a good majority governorship in Sixth Street Capital. I got to know them as well. And just a conversation on the game, how it's evolving, and in my opinion, will be at the forefront of, leading the charge in women's professional sports in America. We'll start seeing, I think you'll start seeing the word B come up with the valuation of some of these teams, as they continue to build.
Point forward.
Well, our next guest coming up has very, very close ties to the Bay Area as well. Very successful athlete. You're seeing a lot going on with the women's empowerment movement, and it's sad that we still have to say that continuously. Like, why do I have to say that? Like, it should already be something that's in place, and we're continuing to move forward. But someone that I've been recently involved with in the business space with recent investment. So the Bay Area just got a new National Women's Soccer League team, which is amazing. We're seeing some crazy numbers in viewership and participation in women's soccer. And they say put your money where your mouth is. I know it's going to be an amazing movement. Our next guest from the University of Santa Clara, bronze medalist in the World Cup, silver medalist in the Olympics, strong soccer athlete. Welcome to the stage, Danielle Slaton. And I'm sorry, I didn't give the proper introduction. Part of the original ownership group of Bay Area FC, which is the new franchise in the Bay Area. We will be playing next year. I'm a teeny weensy small owner of the team, but this is...
Me too.
But we've never seen this before, which is beautiful. We've been fighting for ownership for quite some time. We go all the way back to when the union first started with Oscar Robertson, and they boycotted the All-Star game just to get the union started, just to get proper, I shouldn't say treatment, but the things that we needed to have as athletes for the longevity and helping the leagues grow. And to see a group of women, you along with Ali, Brandy, and Christy. Leslie, that's Leslie, sorry. We've never seen something like this before, actual sports franchise being started by 4 women. Yeah. It's amazing, so congrats to that. And just kind of talk to us of how it came about, just from even the vision into, the whole journey.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. First of all, credit to Larissa. I feel like I was sitting there listening to y'all, and I was like, man, the authenticity comes through, the creativity comes through, and I was like, ooh, I feel filled up right now. Let's go.
Yeah, we were praying for that. We were hoping it worked out.
Yeah. But no, when I look back to really the germination of the idea for Bay FC, it started in 2020, and it started when a bunch of other former teammates of mine down in Los Angeles announced that there was this new soccer team in Los Angeles, Angel City Football Club. And Leslie Osborne, Ali Wagner, Brandy Chastain, and myself, we all live about 2 miles from each other, right? So I go on my run, I can run by everybody's house on the way. And Leslie was the one to call and was like, what the hell? How come we didn't know about this? What are they doing in LA? And why don't we get to be a part of it? And she came and she was like, but maybe we could do that, right? We could do that up here. And so we called down to Southern California, one of our other former teammates, Julie Foudy, and was like, what's going on with this? Tell us what happened. And she said, hey, there's this other woman who's kind of sniffing around. She's on the business side of things. You should talk to this woman, Jen. And so we all kind of got together, and we had the soccer side, we had the business, the tech side, and all these crazy women thinking, you know what? We just might go about this. And so you're kind of new to the game and new to the investment group, but we've been doing this for 3 years, and we've been building towards this. And it's amazing to finally see it come to life, see, our merchandise out in the world. We just made our announcement yesterday. We're going to be playing down in PayPal Park in San Jose. So things are happening, and now we're going to be running with our hair on fire for the next 9 months, which women know a little bit something about, making things happen in 9 months. And we're going to get that done, and we're going to have our first soccer match next March.
So tell me, a lot of people don't know you're drafted by the Carolina Courage. That was the first original women's soccer league, right? Mm-hmm. So tell me, when it came from that, how do you feel from, your first year being a number 1 pick back in 2000, correct? Yep. And, win a championship with them, to being able to take this big leap. Did you ever foresee yourself being able to do this prior to that? Or even back in the day, was there always a wish to be like, yo, we want to be on a higher crazy level to build this sport similar to what, they do in Euro?
I wish I could look back 20 years ago and say that I had the vision to think of myself in that way. But I'd be curious to hear you all's journey too, on kind of when you felt oh, I can do this. I can do more than basketball. I can have a seat at the table. Because for me, I feel like that's just kind of happening right now. And we talk about, let's just level set here. So in 2001, I was the first draft pick out of Santa Clara. #1 draft pick, and
you went to school with Steve Nash, correct? You're the best athlete coming out, right?
He was a couple years older than me, but yes, that man can play soccer too. By the way, let me tell you, he could probably do anything he wanted. But so I was the first draft pick, and my salary, $20,000. And so just like to kind of level set on the differences when you're talking about pay equity and you're hearing Megan Rapinoe and Alex Morgan and so many of these women fighting for equal pay and equal rights, like it's not even equal. It's like, can we just get to a living wage?
Right.
And we still have a long way to go in the NWSL. I mean, the minimum salary right now still is only $36,000. So that's part of us coming into this league and saying, look, our club is going to be player-centric. Our club is something where we are going to consistently fight for our players because they deserve it. And if we expect them to perform at the most elite level, we have to support them in the way that allows them to do that. And part of that is better pay. Part of that is better resources. Part of that is better support. And so that's about, that's what we're building with BayFC. I don't think that I realized when I was a player that voice mattered. I definitely was of the generation of like, shut up and dribble. Like, I'm here to kick a soccer ball and you do that and you sit in your place. And after, I think quite frankly, like George Floyd and being a woman of color on television and not ever seeing anybody who looks like me and starting to feel empowered by that movement, being like, oh no, how I show up in the world matters. How I speak matters. And I need to sit at that table and make sure I voice that opinion because that opinion isn't being heard. And so I think I'm still kind of finding myself in that way. But I feel really empowered. And I think this club has helped me grow in that capacity.
I had a crazy idea the other day.
What was it?
This is like off the cuff.
Good. Crazy ideas are good. Let's go.
It is crazy. And I think, because I work with the union and we do a lot of things with the W in terms of how to help the W. And sometimes I think it gets received the wrong way when we're just trying to come up with new ideas. Like somebody threw a crazy idea about like uniforms. And I was thinking like, well, wait, hold on. You can't be disrespectful. But it wasn't disrespectful. And so I think sometimes like myself and Evan, we think, well, how can we give up an idea and it's received the wrong way and then you just never get it out there, So I'm just throwing this out there. I think there should be, we talking about tax incentives. And well, first, let's talk about this and then it'll lead me to that. I was talking to Sheryl Sandberg, who's a big investor in the group as well. And she's very involved and she's big on women's leadership. And so we have this leadership initiative for our young women who are playing soccer. You can get, like, we're building up the training programs like they do overseas for women to play soccer. And statistics show, like, it's right there. And it's like common sense too. Sports teams or being involved with sports help you become a better businessman or woman, a better business person. You learn discipline. You learn how to work well with other people. You learn how to work well through conflict. You resolve a lot of issues. Some of the best marketers, or if you have a sport that you played in college, it's easy to get a marketing job at like any business out there. Like you see a lot of marketing teams with folks who, play, whether they did canoe or play cricket or any of those things, they get those jobs. And our initiative with BayFC, with women's leadership within soccer, is amazing. And statistics show when you have a diverse board and you have women on your board, your P&L sheets are through the roof. Like it's night and day the percentages of profits when you have women on your board. Like it's mind-boggling that we still have boards with no women or have no diversity. It makes no sense. Even if you don't like women or minorities, it's going to be better on your balance.
You like money, don't you?
It's better on your balance sheets. Exactly. It's like, what are we doing? And so the idea I came up with was, why not just give crazy tax incentives, for some of these billion, $trillion, entities to invest in women's sports. And even if you're working at a loss, you get those tax incentives because ultimately you're building up the next generation of women who will be the leaders, who will run companies, who will be on board seats, and just getting them inspiration or helping them see like these are the greatest women of our times, whether they're athletes or business people. Like, our young girls need to see that. And so why wouldn't we want to incentivize them to reach for these lofty goals? And, you know, why don't we make our salaries $150,000, $400,000, whatever it may be? You gotta decrease that pay gap.
Yeah.
And you gotta raise it up. So that was the crazy thought I had. Like, why not? You know what I mean?
I think you're absolutely right in that we need to continue to make progress, right? But progress never happens in a straight line. It never happens, quite frankly, probably as quickly as I like. But you're absolutely right. And I think it's true of boys and girls, but particularly girls. You see the data, you see the research, particularly out of the Women's Sports Foundation. And we know that girls who play become women who lead, flat out. And so and playing high school sports correlates more highly than being on the honor roll in high school. And so to me, you said it perfectly, right? Sports provides us the opportunity and the environment to practice all of these things that we expect you to do as an adult and get right. And so let's give girls, let's give boys, let's give people access to sport in the right way, and then use that opportunity to teach them all of these leadership skills. And that's part of what we're building, this platform of More Than Soccer. And I think about it in a few ways. I think about access for kids. I think about how we provide the opportunities. I think especially in those like teen middle school years, how we're leveraging the work from Lean In and Sheryl Sandberg to make sure we're supporting girls in the right way and letting them practice these leadership skills. But we're also thinking about how we're going to do that with our players, and how we're thinking about this isn't just a place that we're going to build to attract the best talent in the world, but this is not only going to be a place to come to, but a place from which I envision everyone wants to go forth from, whether it's our players, whether it's our staff. I want to see, like 10 years from now, 30 years from now, the world populated with Bay FC players and business leaders who are kicking butt across the global sports landscape. And so that's the vision that we're building. When I think about this place, like to me, I'm like, my crazy idea is, let's just go build this women's hub. Let's have a WNBA team there too. Shoot, why not? Let's build a training facility. Let's build an innovation hub. Let's build a WeWork center where women can come, and it's designed for women. I don't need a barbershop. Maybe I have a barbershop, but you know what I need? I need a daycare over there. And I need somebody to help me manage the life and the expectations that I have to care for my kids and also have a career. I don't necessarily need a super gadget to open my curtains. I just need some nice ass curtains. So like, how do we figure that out and think through what are the needs of women? What is the research when it comes to sports performance? And how do we build that to support our players? But not only our players, people around the community. How can we build for that too?
What were the difficulties, and what were like some of the easy parts when you went from the idea to going to find investors and find a team to get behind you, especially in the Bay Area where the Warriors are the kings, quote unquote, of the area?
I think, as crazy as it sounds, right now is a time that it is right for women's sports. I mean, you see the World Cup and you see the energy around that, you see the investment. And so I think the idea wasn't a hard sell. Fundraising and getting people to support, it's not a hard sell. The challenge for us now is in the how and how we execute it. And the thing that, if anything, keeps me up at night, aside from my 6-month-old, is just that we're not going to be able to execute fast enough what we say we're going to execute, because we have these big crazy dreams and these big crazy visions, and we know as athletes what it's like to continue to fight and have to set those goals and keep working and keep chopping that wood and keep going. And so to me, that's the pressure I feel, to give to our players, to give to our community, and make sure that our little corner of the universe is better because of what we're building.
So going back to you being an athlete, and you stopped playing at 25, correct?
Mm-hmm. Knee injury, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, being injured. And, and I'll make sure I haven't forgot, Evan and I will answer that question in terms of like, how do we transition from sports to off the court, off the field. But for you, what was it like being that young, and where was your brain space being injured and, having to make that transition relatively early?
It was hard. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through, and I don't think it's something I talked about then. You talked about it a little bit with Russell and this idea of mental health and talking about that more frequently. My career ended to injury, and I was unfortunate in that I fell in the gap between leagues, right? So I played in the WUSA, which was the first women's professional league. After 3 years, that folded. And then my knee injury happened a couple of years later. And so I didn't have a professional place to play. And so if you weren't on the national team, which, top 20 in the country, essentially, like, where are you gonna play? There was no place to play. And so for me, my career just kind of faded to black uneventfully, just quietly. It was just like, you're just not invited anymore. And it was just kind of done. And so for me, I think my husband now, my boyfriend at the time, like I struggled with it because I tried to use all of these tools, these wonderful tools that we learn in sport. Suck it up, work harder, don't complain, be a good teammate, keep fighting, grind it out. I kept trying to do those things. Turns out that doesn't work so well with your feelings, just, lesson learned. But it took me a long time. And I don't think I asked for help early enough. I don't think I took the time to grieve the loss of my sport because, and I don't know if it's the same for you both, but like, I wasn't just a girl who played soccer. Like, I was a soccer player. And so when I lost my identity in that, I didn't know what else I was gonna be. And the challenge for me was that I was 25 years old. And all that anybody ever wants to talk about when they don't know you and you're an athlete, tell me about the Olympics. You played for the Warriors. Yeah, you played 76ers. Like, tell me all about that. And I was going through this period of like, oh my God, what if the most interesting thing that happens to me in my life already happened? What am I supposed to do for the next 70 years of my life? Like, how am I supposed to go? And people kept saying, find your passion and you'll never work a day in your life. And I was like, I found it.
And it's over.
Got taken away from me.
Right.
Now what the hell am I supposed to do? And so it took me a long time to find my way back to sport. I think what I started to do, and my husband, credit him because he kind of, after probably 2 years of me complaining, said, look, you know what you do? He goes, this is what normal, I'm doing air quotes, this is what normal people do. He goes, you pick something. He goes, and you walk through that door. And he goes, and if you like it, you stay in that room. And if you don't like it, you turn your butt back the next day and you go pick another door. And you just keep picking doors, and that door is gonna lead you to another door and another door. And eventually, you're gonna find a place where you feel good. He goes, but you have to pay attention to yourself and you have to keep moving and you have to keep walking through doors. And so that's what I did. I was fortunate enough that I took time and I just said, whatever I enjoy, I'm gonna do. I said, I like flowers. Called up a florist and I said, I will scrub your buckets. I just want to learn how to make a bouquet. I want to learn, by the way, anybody getting married, I can make you a mean bouquet and boutonniere. So you just come call me. I always loved fitness and I was like, you know what? Let me try being a spinning instructor. That's how I got into television. Someone said, can you talk about soccer on TV? And I said, yes. I was lying. I was terrible. But I kept walking through those doors, and that's what made me find my love back to soccer. So that's what allows me to work and call the World Cup right now. That's what has allowed me to be a part of this BAFC organization. And it took me a long time. Sorry, that was a very long-winded answer. But that's how I got here. And it took a while, but I wouldn't be it without the support of the people who helped me really kind of push and learn how to live with soccer in a more long-lasting way.
That was beautiful. Well, we got to answer your question. E.T., you want me to go?
I'll go. I'll use Dre for example. Or I'll say this: when it came to like doing stuff outside of basketball, like you said, I was a basketball player, so that was kind of like my identity. But my mentors and everything will always just be like, you're bigger than basketball, and I used to be like, all right, like sure, you know what I'm saying? And one thing I always just try to do is try to keep exploring what might feed my interest, even though I love basketball so much. So I think, timing is everything and, fate is everything. And I got drafted to the Sixers and I bumped into, a guy that, really set the tone for doing things outside of just basketball. When I met Dre, he was usually always at Harvard, interning somewhere or going to some type of gala. Or when I go to fundraisers, his fundraisers were a little bit different than the other people's fundraiser and like different type of levels. And, from a distance, honestly, when you look up to mentors, you kind of piggyback the right way. But at the same time, I learned that, it's not about what you do, but the people around you that support you. And, when it came down to it, we had a lot of stuff going on together. But, I just really dove into just having confidence in what I'd done before. To make the NBA and do certain things that we did, I was like, that can't be that easy. And I was able to wiggle into a space where, only 0.3% were able to make it. So I figured it gave me confidence to be like, if I can do this, I can do a lot of other things. And the number one thing was just finding, the right support system. You're not anything without people that believe in you. So when I started my first real venture outside of like the beanbag toss of doing real estate and all that type of stuff, I went and got, Kelsey Hawkins and, Anna Martin, and people that actually were willing to listen and believe in my ideas. And one thing that I say is like, yeah, we're all amazing in certain instances, but the realm you're at, and you got to find the right type of people that see your greatness. And I think that's the number one thing that's helped me lead to success, because you have a lot of people out there that are competing, but there's very few people that are willing to push you forward. And I think that's what really helped me get into some of my ventures, but also break out of my shell of basketball, because people didn't see it in me. Maybe I never would have really understood it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's beautiful. All right, I'm gonna be honest. So bear with me, right? Bear with me. So a lot of my motivation came from, I'm just being blunt, it was a lot of white people that told me what I couldn't do like early on in my life. Like those traumas, like that's real. I was 8th grade. What was that? I remember them like it was yesterday.
I can tell it. You walked into a class.
Oh, that
was an AP class, right?
Yeah, that was the first one. So that was, damn, can I say her name? Miss Johnson ain't listening, right?
There's a bunch of Miss Johnsons.
There's a bunch of Miss Johnsons, right? So I walked into a class, and this is my book, The Sixth Man. I walked to a class. It was a high-tracked AP English class. This is in 7th grade. And I walk in, and she was like, excuse me, do you know where you're going? And I'm like, yeah, I know where I'm going. Like, what you mean? She was like, let me see your schedule. And I'm like, what? But in that moment, when she said, let me see your schedule, I'm like, oh, she don't think I'm in the right class, right? So I showed her my schedule, and she was like, all right, you're in the right class, have a seat. But it was like with some oomph to it, like, you don't think I belong in here? And so it's funny because we had to write essays. And when we wrote our essay, it was like a practice essay. And she was trying to see where we were at. I ended up having the best essay. But for like that first month of class, she couldn't stand me. Like every day she was nitpicking at me, like, what are you doing? Why is this? Why is that? Like, sit up straight. I was just like, what? I'm not doing anything. But when she saw my essay, I became her favorite student. And it's amazing at 12, 13 years old, you can see a adult's energy change. And then like the very next year, it was another teacher. He was my brother's football coach, actually. He found out that I was going to a different high school than I was supposed to go. And he dealt with a certain high school, and I went to a different high school. He pulled me to a side and was like, I heard you going to Lanphier, which is the high school I was going to. And I was like, yeah. And it was like a basketball high school. And he was like, oh, you'll be a loser just like the rest of them. I'm like, man, I'm 14 years old. Like, why would you tell me that? Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's just even throughout like history, I look back at my traumas, it was always like an older white person of authority telling me like I couldn't do certain things. Like I've even had a coach, like we were talking about earlier, like I was in a Nike camp and my first day was like a little shaky. I'm trying to figure out my confidence because I'm skinny like my son. And I'm getting pushed around and I'm trying to figure it out. And the coach is like, well, maybe you should go to JUCO, like the NBA is not your route. All right, store that. And then like I'm in college, which is the best coach I've ever had. This was like, there were mind games along the way. And I'm like, what's up with these mind games? Like, I don't think I'm as good as I really am. Like I'm having agents approach me after games. And I remember one agent, he approached me and we have been texting, and I'm like, well, why are you texting me? Like, what do you want from me? Like, what do you want? He's like, what do you mean? I want to represent you. And I'm like, for what? He's like, the NBA. Like, you think I'm wasting my time with somebody that's not good? And I was like, well, why is my coach telling me I'm not that good every day? Because he don't want you to leave school.
Duh.
I was like, oh, I get it now. And so those moments, I understood like, okay, I'm gonna make it to the NBA. But when I got to the league, you hear a million horror stories about going broke, going bankrupt as an athlete. And so just those people telling me I couldn't do something, I always thought like, I'm going to the NBA, but I'm gonna do something crazier than the NBA. It's almost like Kanye West. And I know people get mad, I say Kanye's name all the time, but I don't think people understand like the inspiration that he's put into a whole generation. Like, I watch Genius on Netflix all the time. I just came back from Spain. We came back from Spain yesterday. Like I watched it while I was there and just see him like from the beginning He was like, no, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it. Like at a young age, and his mom was his support system, was like, yeah, right on. Like, you know, somebody telling you you're going to be great at something, that might be all you need. And so I always told myself, like, I'm going to do something so much bigger than basketball. Like, basketball is just going to take me to where I really want to go. And Kanye was like, music is just going to take me to where I really want to go. Like, how many fashion brands has he inspired? Like, Skims is valued at what now? $4 billion. Like,
so that was in you. Like, where did it come from? You just had it?
I was a sore loser, which, like, if you can turn energy certain ways, like I tell like my young guys, like Jordan Poole was my little brother and Lester Quinones is my little brother. He killed it in summer league this summer. And it's like, them are two guys I have to be like, no, shift your energy. Like Lester is a knucklehead. He was like, I was bad for no reason as a kid. I'm like, yeah, just take the same energy. You just shift it a little bit. Like, coach is mad at you for something, don't yell back at him. Just use the same energy on defense and just steal the ball and lay the ball up. And now the coach likes you. And they're like, huh? I'm like, listen, you're going to be really mad with that coach and you're going to argue with coach. Or take the same exact energy and just put it on defense, which is he's getting on you about defense. And now you get 5 more minutes in the game. And now you're just going to keep going up in the coach's favor. And then he averaged 21, 4, and 4 in summer league this year. Like, he just got his contract yesterday. And I'm like, I'm not taking any credit for it. You did it, but it's just shifting that energy. So for me, being a sore loser, like, I hate losing at anything.
Do you hate to lose more than you love to win?
Yeah, like when that's what I need to work on. Like what you were saying earlier about like gratification. Like, you should tell yourself you're the best. Like, why not? And that's another Kanye thing too. Like, he might take it too far, but like,
it's free to talk positively about yourself. You know what I mean? I always tell people, like, tell your own story because the sidelines is gonna fuck it up. And when it comes down to it, you know what I mean? You know the truth, and you can never like you can never like, you know, underestimate how stupid people are. You know what I mean? And that's not in the sake of anything, but it's just in the sake of confidence. When I first left high school, my English teacher was like, you're going to Ohio State, you're leaving here, you're no longer a big fish in a little pond, you're a little fish in a big pond. And I'm like, bitch, I'm a shark. Like, no disrespect. No disrespect to like the B word or nothing, but like, you have to be entitled to it because it's like, no, this is my life. Like, fuck what you talking about. Like, go do what you do, go do what I do, and we'll meet at the top. But if you ain't there, that's on you. But like, other than that, like, nah, like, why would I wake up just to do normal shit? Y'all are Soho membership like holders. Like, y'all understand it. Like, you want difference, and that's the value of it. That's the vibe, and it's simple as that. It's not like he keeps it cute in culture. Like, legit, we meet once or twice as a fuck you, and I'll go do it.
I love it.
Straight up. This is why I hang out with him.
Hell yeah.
Because
I want to hang out with y'all more.
No,
it's overrated with me. Don't worry.
No, I always struggle with like being too humble, and like, you know, as a parent, it's like, how do you find that fine balance? You know, like, you have a 6-month-old. Like, how do you find that balance of, no, you're going to be humble, like, you're going to be respectful, but at the same time, I had to go back. It was like, okay, my son, he's the first one. It's like, boy, you got to stop being quiet and stop being nice. You got to stop being nice. Like, go take it. But we've been preaching being humble. And so, like, you need people around you. And this is why this is my best friend, because anytime I'm around him, I feel like the best version of myself because I'm super confident, you know? And so, like, I always struggle with that, you know, with just, like, instead of me just worrying about the losses or how I'm going to prove somebody wrong, like, sometimes I need to bask in, like, who I am and my greatness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You all right. You're all right.
I do all right. It works out, right? Yeah. I mean, but you understand the journey.
Absolutely.
You know, like you said, you got 9 months to figure it out, and like, I'm here, whatever you need. I'm up the street. I already been to, not a game, but
cat.
I like that. But we were at the
U.S. Women's National Team send-off game.
We were at the what they call friendly game.
Yep.
And so I was there, pulled up, friendly, and then it will be on my calendar.
Yeah.
I will be at the games. There. Yes. I can edit, but I'm gonna be on the board. Yeah. And so I will be heavily involved. So any capacity, whatever you need, I truly appreciate you. I hope you know you are an inspiration.
Thank you.
Like, you're gonna change like generational lives. You talk about generational wealth. Like, that's real generational wealth, where you know you're gonna make the next crop better, and then they're gonna make the next crop better, and hopefully we stop tearing up the earth with over mass producing and how we do. So with that being said, thank you so much.
Thank you
for joining us.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Beautiful conversation.
Thank you.